Call to order a special meeting for East Lyme Board of Finance, budget reviews, Monday, April 8th, 2019. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I got the one with no thing again. So just to be clear, what we want to do tonight, delegation, to the main agenda item for tonight is, reviewing the budget, delegating on the budget. The first item is the people we've requested additional information from, which is going to be capital, along with Board of Ed. We'll bring that additional information in. If there's any additional information that somebody doesn't have, that somebody's asked for in the past or would like to ask for, we'll bring that in. Beyond that, I suspect that by then it's going to be getting kind of late. If we want to have some conversations about how we're going to deliberate going forward, that's fine. I think the best plan of action is to take tonight all the information in, spend tomorrow evening in our own leisure going through and comparing, contrasting the different numbers, and not try to come up with a proposed answer tonight. If somebody's already got a number in their head that they want to talk about, we can have that conversation. My expectation, I will not. My expectation is I will have to sit down tomorrow night and play with the numbers in an Excel file. So that's my expectation for tonight. Questions or comments before we move on? Okay. Item number C on the agenda is delegations. Delegations is an opportunity for anybody that would talk about anything that's currently on the agenda tonight. Sir.
Mike Schultz, Lovers Lane, East Lyme. I was prepared for the Board of Ed. I thought they were going to be earlier. That's where I probably can't stay that late. But I think the only thing I can state at this point is the amount of dollars that I think that I've pointed out that, in my opinion, are overcharges that we are paying the master degree plus the administrators that have or they're basically overqualified to perform the functions that we need them to perform at the school system. And I'm saying that because it's $500 and some odd thousand. And that's an area of savings that we really need to look at. It may be something that we can't do much about this year because it is all in their contracts. But each year, for all these contracts, and these, which are, in my opinion, many of them overcharges, cost of living to extracurricular activities in the sporting activities, the fact that there isn't pay for play. All these items are adding significant numbers. And I've looked at some information that I've got here where they're talking about the extracurricular activities in the $750,000 range. Well, in 2014, there were 1 million. How did we go to 750,000? I got proof. I mean, it's in writing from them. Nothing I dreamed up. So, I guess what I would ask of you is to give consideration to giving a reasonable reduction in what we're asking the public to provide. Because I think that too much of it is excessive, and we really need to look at going to one-year contracts as opposed to these multi-year contracts, because I think that if they are done on an annual basis, you won't have these weeks of negotiations and so forth that we're currently going through, because now we're looking at trying to negotiate for 2 and 3 years. And you don't know what's going to happen two or three years out. I think it's okay for them to have contracts, but they should be annual. And there should be merit involved, not cost of living, not step changes. All step changes should be removed. The town's done it. It's time for the Board of Ed to get on board and get rid of theirs as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Delegations. Speaking on behalf of delegations? Anyone else? Seeing none, hearing none, we will move on to old business. All right, so now we're into the meat of deliberations where any board member that wants to get into any further detail. Right now, we're going to get into capital. Mr. First Selectman and the Director of Finance have the capital information. We have the sheets that they gave us that has the multicolors, which I think is where we're going to start using that one, correct?
Sure.
Okay.
Have a plan. It's a little bit of the chicken and the egg thing here. Tail wagging the dog, or, I don't know, come up with something, Lisa. You know, we have this thing that the appropriation that went through a couple, during your last regular meeting, most of you were there, and was denied, and we're coming back to you for that to Wednesday night, which takes some of what's on the capital out of the capital. It gets paid with dollars from 2 years ago. And we'll go through that in great detail, but keep in mind, some of this is coming out should that pass. Should that not pass, it's in this budget, which makes next year's budget that much higher. There's also the issue of Joe Bergaw had put the hook truck
Yep.
in his budget. It was mentioned to take it out of there and put it into capital instead. He wanted to do it because he needs to do it soon. He needs to do it like immediately, get it immediately, in order to realize the savings. Because if you don't do that, we're going to be spending that much more money with Willimantic Waste picking up our recycles, so all the things that they pick up. The whole purpose was to save money over here and spend it over here, and in the long run, he would save money, as you remember. So there's that issue. Do we move it over to capital? If that's your wish. Take it out of his budget, move it over to capital, that's going to change your colored piece of paper here. But those are the kind of the moving parts, a chicken and egg thing, right? So if we do this, there's a reaction. If we do this, there's a reaction. So we kind of start the meeting off with that, and just remember that all those things are kind of going, all right? Like a short order cook, we got 3 or 4 different frying pans going here. We have to remember all that. So we kind of went over some of this the other night. I'll remind you, everything in brown is CNRE, it's savings, it's money that we're putting away into savings buckets. It's the low-hanging fruit in this. Some of these things can be put off. If you want to save $130,000 in next year's budget, take out the money for reval. She's kicking me under the table right now. But you could do that. But next year, you're going to have to pay the piper. Next year, in the plan, you're going to have $260,000 because we do go to contract next year for reval. We've saved some money, but we're going to need $430,000 thereabouts, plus or minus. So we can do the big chunk next year, wrap it into a bonding thing, wrap it into an acquisition thing, or whatever. But we could save real money this year by taking out that, and save money by not saving for our HVAC systems and our sidewalk systems and our town projects and the servers. It is the low-hanging fruit. When you come at the end of all this process and go, oh, cut 50,000, come back to us, cut 100,000. That's what we go to. That's the first stop. But it's not necessarily the wisest move, right? Because you're only putting off the inevitable. You're gonna have to buy a server someday. You're gonna have to fix the HVAC system on the roof here someday. And obviously, by law, by state statute, you're gonna have to go to reval next year, and it's just the money is what the money is. So everything in brown is that, and you can kind of look through the different brown. The purple are items that will only be funded by LoCIP. And it's a laundry list. It does not mean we'll do them all. We put them all in the first year, and just be reminded, if the state, it funds us, and some years they've doubled LoSiP. All of a sudden we get a big push in LoSiP. In some years they cut LoSiP right out from under all the towns. So you can't spend LoSiP money if it hasn't been in your plan. That's the only thing really that matters in this plan. Everything else can come and go. It's our town. We can decide what's best for the town at any given time using, rational thinking and common sense. But to spend state money, LoSiP money, it must be on this list, and in our case, listed as purple. That's not a state statute. In black are the things that are baked right into your budget. So in budget, in your budget book, 742, 724, 724 at the back of the book, you have a capital budget back there. Those are items that are being paid for with next year's operating funds, right there. And you'll see money listed for items. Some of them are acquisition payments, like car payments. 12 payments out of the 60 payment plan for vehicles. We typically do a 60-month lease or loan. Some items like townwide computers. We spend $10,000 a year in computers to redo our computers. We get new computers every 7 or 8 years on a typical desktop, that's how we fund that. $10,000. We talked earlier about the Board of Ed spends a little more than that, but they're a bigger department. And obviously in green are things that we bond over 20 years, that the future taxpayers of this town will enjoy the benefits of the purchase for at least that long, sometimes 30 or 40 years, and that we typically spread out the payments. And those are listed on there. We have a road program that we put on every year. Our roads, we're keeping up with our roads. Other towns are suffering. Joe has outlined to you several times, many of you have been on this board for a long time, about how cheap it is to go and maintain roads and to put tar down, and put the tar and the gravel down, or to even scrape up the top and apply tar and put it back down, versus digging up whole roads like we did at Saunders Point because they were so bad. We had to take the whole road up, change all the drainage, and then re-put down a road. Very expensive project. And we had to do that up at Bush Hill. We did that at Saunders Point. This is an ongoing program that is paying dividends in the long run. That's a good introduction. I'm sure you have questions.
One other question that's routinely asked is, of these items that you just, 4 categories, which ones have to come back to this board again for approval before they're actually purchase orders placed?
Everything not in black?
Well, so definitely bonded items, that would go through the
Yep.
full appropriations process. And so typically, every year after the budget is adopted, so during the month of June, we do the appropriations, we do the special appropriations for all the CNRE items to appropriate them into the CNRE fund, and then also the acquisition program. So that's the items that are highlighted in the blue.
On that, just for clarification, other funds in blue, is that solely vehicle acquisition funding, or are there other things bundled in there?
Turn it up that way.
In this year's
This isn't
plan,
colored
it's
yet.
all, I think I first used that when we were doing a project in the probate building, and for the new HVAC system that we put in there, I believe 2 years ago. So the funds for that project came from the probate fund, which is a special revenue fund that all of the participating probate towns contribute to. So that's kind of how I established the blue color, and I just felt I didn't want to add any more colors, and I thought it was appropriate enough. But in this year's plan, in answer to your question, yes, they're all acquisition items.
So it's which she's done is take it, they used to be black, they used to be part, because they are kind of baked in your budget, right? The acquisition, the car payments, the vehicle payments. But it was tough to distinguish new versus ongoing payments. We've
Yeah.
had that discussion many times. So she's separating that out to show new versus old.
Okay, so this is new acquisition payments and the other ongoing.
But, so the blue, what the blue represents is the full cost of the item. It's not necessarily what's in the budget for the item. At the last meeting, I gave you a worksheet that looks like this. And what this shows is, it identifies all of the acquisition items, and it shows what the annual payment would be if it was included in the acquisition plan, and then what the total cost would be over the 5 years. I just thought it kind of,
That fell off my stack.
it would be,
It's a lot of paper. I believe you,
Is
but
it this,
That's why I
is
went
it
to the
this?
folder.
yes. If any, if you want, if anyone needs.
yeah,
a
I mean,
copy.
if we're gonna talk about that tonight, I guess I need that, 'cause
This one?
I guess, yeah.
This one?
Yes.
For one.
Yeah. Okay, you can look at that if you want to as we go through, if we get to the point that we want to digest that. Okay, so, I think the answer to my question is, black items do not come back to us again. Purple state-funded tasks do, LoCIP.
LoCIP would?
Green bonds,
No,
No, LoCIP, no.
No.
we don't have to, I thought we still
I think
have
we
to
spend.
agree to spend state money.
So,
I think so.
what we'll do with this is, we'll appropriate the funds, this year's money into the CNRE account. That's how we have this set up now.
So excuse me, the LoCIP funds will go into the CNRE
Yes.
account, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
so
So
you
then
don't think
purple is
we don't go through
no.
appropriations then
We
for
don't-
LoCIP?
We just put the money in, and then
Right.
we use it for the various projects.
Okay.
Okay. Green bonded funds, yes, they're gonna come back to us, of course. And then the brown, the
CNRE.
CRNE is gonna be,
Those Fed, no, those don't come back.
there's a no, that's all part of the, okay. So we don't see the black, we don't see the purple, we do see the green, we don't see the brown, we do see the blue.
Correct. Yeah.
I mean, that seems to be,
No,
when
that's a good
when
way
things
of-
come before us, it seems like sometimes we're not clear why we haven't seen it, or if it is included in the plan or not included in the plan, and there seems to be confusion sometimes, so.
Can you just repeat that, Bill, so make sure I have it
Black,
down?
So
black,
on the brown, excuse me one second, so on the brown, once the budget is adopted, we go through the appropriations process to appropriate the funds into CNRE for their specific purposes as identified in this plan.
So you
Yeah,
do see it
You
then?
do see
In a
Yeah,
big
you-
chunk?
the
Right.
brown.
The brown.
okay. Okay, so black is included in the budget, we don't see it again. Purple is state funds that will roll directly into LoCIP, so we won't see it again. Green is bonded funds, we will see bonds before we get them approved. Brown CRNE, we will see again, one time, one big chunk, one big bucket, correct? And then the brown acquisition, we see them as they come up, and they're gonna be individual, blue, I'm sorry, blue. Glad somebody's listening to me.
And red, we don't see, is that right?
Do we even
Grants.
have, do we have one? I don't remember where it's from.
Did we have any grants in
Well, I
here?
think we
Grants.
do depend, well, actually,
I didn't think we
what
saw any
should
of
be
this.
Well, it's on the
highlighted in,
legend, that's why I'm asking.
well, what should be highlighted in red and is not, but is the Commission on Aging. There's a couple of replacement buses in the plan, and portion of that will be paid for with DOT state grants. We're in the process of applying for one now, but we don't expect to make that purchase until 2021. So those two items, it would be fair to say, should be in red.
So they'll also be yes. We will see those when they're,
Yes.
okay.
There are no years being applied for.
Alrighty then. I think the next thing to do is to ask the board members of the list of things in front of us now, if there's anything specific that you want more detail about. Some of these things are recurring every year, and we're probably familiar with them. Maybe you're not, and feel free to ask if there's any line item that you would like more clarity on. I still don't have a lot of confidence in the justification rating. If something says 1, 2, 3, and 4, does that mean the lowest number carries or the highest number carries?
Your justification ratings are above, do you see those?
Yep,
Okay, so it doesn't mean it's not a priority rating.
Okay.
I've seen Joe do that sometimes on his own, he's put priority ratings. But this is, this is descriptive ratings.
okay, so last,
Descriptive comments, footnotes.
okay, so last week when I asked about the priority of these as far as the town's concerned, I was told to look at the justification column.
Yeah, I follow.
So I guess the interpretation is that I would read the description, and from that, I'm smart enough to know what a high priority and low priority is. Okay, got it. Okay, so, with that said, do we have anyone that would like to ask a specific question about, or a general question about the capital plan that's before us?
I have a number of questions. I'll
Okay.
start.
Go ahead.
How much do we have put away?
Inside this one.
How much do we have put away for the revaluation at this point?
I believe 282,000.
If I recall, the entire project costs about $475. Is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
You have 430.
Yeah, that was an old number.
So actually, that was a question I had, is what is that number? Because I've seen different numbers from going back to last year's, capital improvement plan as well.
Where does it say the total cost? Who said
Right in the
430?
description.
It's in parentheses, I think.
Oh, excuse me, 427, okay.
So is it 427 or is it 475?
I believe it's a higher number, but I'm gonna get that information for
I
you.
I seem to recall talking about that, and it was higher than the 427 listed there. But let's suppose it is 475. We don't know that. But let's suppose it's 475, and we've put away 282. That leaves us with 193,000 that we'd still have to put away for that, correct?
Yes,
So what we're doing between 1920 and 2021 is putting away 260. So is it reasonable to expect that we can reduce those to
Essentially.
$96,500 in each of those years?
Good pickup.
I guess you gotta be sure that you have 280.
yeah, I'm gonna,
I know that's what you're
I'm-
looking at.
yeah, I wanna verify all the numbers, because when we put this together, I conferred with the assessor, and we looked at what we had and what we would need over the next 2 years.
So so what is the best way to get that information tonight?
Well, actually, I can go and look that information up for you.
During
when
a
you're-
little break or something?
Well, when you're meeting with the Board of Ed.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
I don't have to be here the full time, I can go in my office and look that up for you.
That's something I don't want to lose sight of, because I think that, that's a good chunk of change we could save in this
Mhm.
budget year.
Mhm. Spread it out.
Okay, and speaking of the CNRE, Anna, I'm sorry, I just don't understand how you got to the total number of $357,060 on the back.
And the number's different in the department thing, right?
Mhm.
It would be all of everything in the brown.
So when I look at everything in the brown, which that's being funded by the CNRE,
Mm-hmm.
and then I go to Department 724,
Oh, so you know what part of the difference is?
Police.
The police vehicles.
Police vehicles.
they're broken out separately.
Well, they're
they're
included
paid.
in CNRE, it's Department 216, and that's part of the brown total, but that money's not coming from the general fund. that is being subsidized by the $25 charge that we charge for the outside
Their own
police job.
funds.
But it's
Right.
part of the brown number.
Right, so why is that brown number in our CIP?
Well, they're capital items that we plan to purchase.
We need another color, that's what you're saying?
No, that's not, let me see if I can rephrase this. So, the two vehicles for the police that we're budgeting for in the capital improvement comes to $170,000.
That's actually 3 vehicles.
Okay, well, it says 2 police patrol utility vehicles for 170. You're saying that's 3 this year?
So what it is it's, I made a note to add to it the detective description. So it's 2 utility vehicles and 1 detective vehicle. So
All
this-
for 170,000.
Yes.
And that is 100% being paid for by the police fund, the special revenue fund, 170.
Yes, however, we're gonna include those vehicles in the acquisition plan, but the money's not coming out of the general fund to make those annual payments. It's coming from the funds that we're getting from the outside police jobs.
And that is why if I go to Department 724, I'll see the CNRE-municipal at a much lower rate than the CNRE and the CIP
That's absolutely
plan.
correct.
Okay, so if I take $170,000 out of the 357,060, right? I'm taking 170,000 out. I get 187,060. What is the 195,060? There's an additional $8,000 in there. What is that for, if anything?
8,000 is these, it's a round number, it's the servers. There's an $8,000 figure in here somewhere.
It's 5,000 for servers.
No.
And that total
No, it's
includes the
8,000.
service?
Thermal imaging camera,
No, that would be.
No. server, Waterford boat.
It says
It is this.
170.
Look at, why would we have 8,000 3
Well, that is
times?
supposed to be in CNRE. Yeah, I'll
Is
check.
that the 8,000?
Could be, yeah, because that's where it's supposed to go.
Oh, and
But
it's not brown?
in brown, yeah.
So which one are we looking at?
It's in department.
Police Department, Waterford boat,
in
engine
16.
replacement.
Section 216.
8,000 appears 3 times over. Yeah.
So that $8,000 should be brown.
Yeah, I'll check on that for you as well.
So then, if I really can't get the black numbers to tie. So without trying to tally up the black numbers right at this instance, if that $8,000 for the Waterford boat becomes brown, and that's how you get to the 195,060 in the budget, should we take $8,000 out of another bucket somewhere?
Well, I have to go and look at the way the formulas read.
Okay, yeah, I completely understand that.
That was one of my questions.
Don't you have a laptop, Anna?
In here,
Do you have a laptop, like for business use?
I do.
Oh, okay.
Why didn't I bring it in here?
No, I was just wanting to make sure you had one.
I do.
Okay.
I didn't think I would need it in here tonight.
No, that's fine, I'm just wanting to make sure you have one,
Yeah.
you know, in the future if we need to reference something. Okay, so maybe also at the break, if you could help me to come back and help us to understand how the black numbers tie out. 'Cause I'm not really getting them to add up correctly. And then, in preparation for Wednesday's meeting, the acquisition or the appropriation that you're requesting for the vehicles, the $81,000. Is that what this blue item is in engineering 105, the Ford Escort for 23,000?
It's an escape.
Yeah, it ends up being an escape.
And it's Escape.
But is that the same thing? Are we talking
Yes.
about the same
Yes.
thing?
It is, yeah.
So that's a
Confusing.
Ford Escape. That's what you want to bring into this year.
Correct.
But that blue number isn't referenced anywhere in the budget as an expense?
It is.
Oh, where is that?
It's in Department 724.
Okay.
It's not the full 23,000.
Payments, right?
Yeah, it's just the payment portion.
So it's under
Under
new,
new.
third line down, engineering.
It's like
For
49.65.
$49.65. Okay, so if we approve that vehicle acquisition on Wednesday by using this year's leftover funds, the $49.65 can come out
Yes.
of the capital.
Yes.
Okay. And the other thing that can come out would be, what's the other thing? 50,000 for the chief's vehicle? The F-250?
No.
No?
The F-350 under Public Works.
The other two items are Public Works items.
So there's an F-350 under Public Works. Let's see if it's listed there.
No.
Or it's under the.
If you look at this
415.
sheet,
Mhm.
if you look at this sheet that you have,
Yeah.
the three items that are like grayed,
Highlighted.
gray highlighted, I don't have a color printer, a color copier, I mean. So if you look at those three items, those are the three items that would come out of the budget. So it's the annual finance cost, that column is what you're looking at.
33,955.
That sounds about right, yes.
So where is that in the Public Works?
So it's a part of, it's.
Vehicles slash equipment per plan, full value?
It's in, account number 708. Look, if you look at this spreadsheet, that's in the back of your book, in Department
CIP?
724.
708?
Yes, so there's $366,047 there, so you would be able to make, the reduction for the skid steer and the F-350 out of that account.
Can you hold that paper up one more time, Anna, please? I wanna make
It's
sure I'm
about
looking
4
at the.
pages deep under your.
724.
724.
It's in
It's in the
724.
big book.
All right,
Department
I'm in the
724.
wrong
You gotta go
place.
4 or 5, 3 or 4 pages.
It's got CAD software on the top of it, first line
Yes,
item?
yes.
Okay. So it's this one.
Yeah, where did you say it was on this sheet?
It's, almost all the way down at the bottom, it's the account, the last three numbers are 708.
Okay.
$366,000. Okay, so I'm not understanding which numbers on the CIP plan would be reduced by, I think I'm looking for a reduction of $33,955 somewhere.
It's gonna be, so the $4,965, that's, in account where it says, new under it,
Right.
okay, and you see the $4,965?
Yep, I s- So it would come out, I think if I'm answering my question, tell me if I'm wrong. If I look at PWD dash trucks for 366,047, that would be reduced by 36,000?
That would be reduced by 26,642.
26,000.
Right, and then the remaining, and then there's the $4,965, that would be reduced from another count that's itemized on that worksheet.
66 or 47.
Oh, so that one truck is part of the PWD truck acquisition.
Well, two of the items
Yeah.
are, okay, and then
So which two?
the F-350 and the skid steer.
This one
Oh, I'm looking at
and this
water
one.
and sewer. Never mind. All right.
The ones that are
which
in
two?
gray.
Skid
That's in
steer?
gray, that's in gray, and that's in gray.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay, so
Because the
11865.
three, if you add the 49, that's about 32,000.
So
That's what I
26.
thought she was talking
yeah,
about.
yeah.
642. So I don't have the appropriation requests in front of me tonight, but those would be the three vehicles?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So our budget this year would be reduced. $31,607 if we approve those appropriations on Wednesday. Okay. That's really what I wanted to understand and why I really wasn't prepared to do that the other evening. I hope you understand. Okay, thank you.
Is that your last question?
For now.
Thank you. And
Yeah, just hang on, I've gotta go back to my, let's see, I had a few. Okay, so let's go back to let me get my bearings, thank you. Here we go.
Okay.
Okay, so things like building maintenance, we have, it's low SIP, but it's $100,000, and I'm on page 1 of the proposed, SIP. So we have that in there, and I know it's just a placeholder, we'll say, but, and I don't know if we're going to decide as a board, do we want to just move that and shift that, because we now have a different scenario. So is that something we'll be contemplating, along with, you know, there's some other items like that, because of now, you know, renovating Honeywell for our public safety complex.
Well, if I may, the other evening, when the Board of Selectmen were discussing it, one of the things that was felt about that 100,000, it's a placeholder, and in the event when we are working on the Honeywell, we have a certain budget right now. If something else was needed, we would have this resource available. We were very broad in our description to give us flexibility on specifically what it would be in the police building.
so the LoCIP fund, if I just
go
support what
ahead.
she's saying, is the LoCIP fund is a list of anything that we may be getting state funds. There's no negative to adding things to this list that we maybe potentially could need to spend state funds for if we got the state funds. So right now, the impact on the budget for this 100,000 is 0.
Yes.
The impact on anything on purple has got no impact on our budget.
Correct.
We would only spend any purple funds if the state gave us the purple funds.
And then we apply some common sense. Obviously, we're not gonna go fix the old building when we're building the new one, but also, we're gonna be in there for another, could be up to another 9 months or 12 months, and things can go wrong.
But if we
So-
spend all the money that we've allocated for upgrading that building, and there's an additional need for something else,
Right.
we could get state funding perhaps to add
Correct?
safety glass or whatever that
Yeah.
other thing is. So I just, for clarity purposes, I think the purple things are just
Yeah,
things that we're gonna ask the state for.
Right.
There's no impact on the budget.
right,
But to have a longer list is to our benefit because it has to be in our capital plan for the state to approve the budget
okay.
or the funds.
Similarly, but different, there's the server replacement under the police department to 216.
They do not, they,
We can take that out.
we could take it out, or they do need a server,
Right,
and we're gonna obviously put it into the new building, not the old. We'll wait on that. Anna's saying take it out, I say leave it in, and we'll apply it into the new building, and it will come out of the $2.3 million that we have to replace that building. We could do it either way. We could take that out now and save money in next year's operating, and then pull it out of the 2.3.
I like how you're
If
thinking,
that's your,
Mark.
well, I gave you 2 scenarios. but,
Okay.
I like how you're thinking, Anna.
but yeah, we could take that out.
Okay.
So let's talk about, are we gonna take that out? Should we deal with that right now, or I don't wanna lose that?
So I would suggest that you kind of make yourself a note until Anna's done with her questions, because I think a lot of these things we're gonna wanna talk about, what to remove and what not to remove. So, I mean, I circled it and said potential removal. I mean, how we each take our notes is how we each take our notes, but I don't wanna have motions on
Yeah.
every line item. Okay,
Okay, just a couple of things. Under animal control, there's nothing, excuse me, for this year, but last year, there was to be 150,000 bonded. I know we're in a different scenario now with that facility, the Bates Woods facility. So I wonder did we ever bond that 150? So that was just, again, a placeholder in a
Right,
way,
right,
and we didn't have to deal with it. Okay, that's fine. I just had another question about, Public Works, 317, let's go back to that. The scale house, loader shed, now, 100,000 appears in, again, but that's of course, purple. I just noticed a difference, I guess, it was 60,000 in last year's. So,
We
just-
actually went out and priced it and took a look at what we needed to do up there. When it's in the out years, they're placeholders. When you get close and you're actually putting it into this
into
year's
the plan of the year.
contemplation,
Right.
then you gotta get some numbers right and
Okay.
real. And we need a new scale up there, and that's the significant part of the money.
Okay.
Trucks come in, they need to be weighed, going into the transfer station. I'm
Okay.
not sure how the operation totally runs, I don't have all the details, but we haven't invested any money up there in a whole long time.
Right.
The gentlemen that work up there are in this shed that is literally not insulated, heated with a plug-in, and it just needs a bit of an upgrade. I think they still use a porta lab up there as well. So we need to kind of upgrade the facilities for our town workers. That's why it's there.
Okay, and again, it's LoCIP.
It's low supply.
So, it could move in other ways.
If necessary, and I think it's actually been on our target for a
For
little
some-
while, but
yeah.
it's was slipping.
Okay,
As the state slips, we slip,
okay,
yeah.
okay, okay, and then, so in the 2019 capital improvement plan, proposed plan, there's a kind of line that seems to want to be filled in on the last page, page 5. So you have funding sources, and then in the 2018 version, you carried that set of numbers across for all the years for Board of Ed. Are those numbers to be filled in, or am I missing something or not comprehending something there? So on the last page, under funding sources, there's town, and then there's Board of Ed, and then when you go to the 2018 version of this document, I mean, the same, we have that filled in, so I'm just,
So Ann, I think it's because the Board of Ed has their separate capital plan,
Well,
perhaps.
and so,
No, I know,
No.
so that goes
They
back,
want it, it's last
but
year's.
that goes back to, what used to be in black for the Board of Ed was what they were making for their acquisition payments in their operating budget. So this year, as we've indicated, instead of showing what the annual payments are in the capital plan, we're showing what the total cost is to purchase the items. So if you look in the boards section, you'll see the items that they have
right.
to be included in the acquisition plan, which, a telephone upgrade at the middle school,
Yes, okay.
a vehicle for the maintenance department, and their technology plan. So those are the dollar values of the items they would be purchasing. And, I'll just mention the maintenance vehicle. If the items get approved on Wednesday night, that may be able to come out of the plan because we will be giving the board a hand-me-down of one of the vehicles that we have in Public Works. Remember, Joe brought that up when we were talking about that plan. So I'll just, bring that up.
So that's at 50, that's 50,000, you said?
But that, it wouldn't be a full 50,000, it would just be, an acquisition payment, which would be, somewhere between 10 and 11,000, I would say, for a $50,000 item.
All right. I'm okay for now. I mean, I have other things, but we'll move on to others, and then, I'm sure there'll be overlap with some of the questioning.
Okay.
Okay.
And typically, we would want to not speak on top of each other any more than we have to, but for the capitals, if we're all talking about the same line item, please feel free to let me know that there's something on that line item you want to participate with.
What do you got, John?
I'm good. Well, my question's been answered.
So, on the first page of the capital improvement plan, we talked about the escape. So why am I thinking that 23,000? Assume we didn't pull it forward for this, we're not considering pulling it forward. Why am I thinking that 23,000 would be spread out for 5 years? Instead of a lump of 23 in the next year?
So the blue, she's showing the cost of the blue, but really it's an acquisition program.
Right.
So it would
So it's-
technically really be $465 over 5 years going forward.
Yeah, where is that line item in here? Because you total all these up, right?
So this was helpful.
No, it's in the 724.
Correct. So actually, if you look in 724,
Yeah, I see it.
okay.
So, under Parks and Rec equipment, line item 421 and Department 724, we've got $51,412. And then we have a note that says it includes the monster lawnmower for $95,000. What am I missing?
So the 95,000 is what it's gonna cost us to purchase that mower, but we're only gonna make one payment of that in the budget. So if you look at, this sheet here, you'll see that, the annual payment on that is $20,494. So the 51,412 that you see
Mhm.
is this dollar amount, what's proposed in 1920, plus prior year payments that we're
sorry.
still paying on. from
Which
previous
5140,
years.
whatever you just said? I see,
So go halfway down that page of the
I see the
acquisition plan.
95,
That plus
that's the annual.
an existing acquisition of something. Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Which is what? So-
that large area mower.
No, you said there's something else.
This
There's
form
other
says,
things that, Parks and Rec have more than that piece of equipment, so it's vehicles, it's other mowers, it's
yeah,
trippers.
so the department total is 67,061 for the year, right?
Say that again.
It says here that the department total is
Well,
67,061.
that's got Board of Ed in it too.
Oh, this has got Board of Ed in it too.
So are you on capital plan, this?
I'm back to this acquisition one that we're looking at.
So
little
P&R
confusing.
large area mower, 20,494 is the annual finance cost.
Yeah,
Halfway down.
I just heard a $50,000 number. I was trying to
Because it says right
figure
here,
out what that one is.
51,412.
That's this one.
Yeah.
Okay, so what else is in the 51,000, I think, is our question.
So it would be items that we've purchased in prior years.
30, 40.
And they're on this sheet in the back?
The list of the items that we've purchased in prior years aren't noted in the backup.
Okay.
They've already been purchased, we're making payments on them.
Yeah, I mean, okay, I just wanted to know what they were. I guess I don't know.
No, we're just trying to figure out the impact on this year's budget, and if we don't understand what prior year payments are being made this year, it's kind of hard to understand the different pieces and how they interlock.
Thank you.
And that's why I'm trying to flick between the different pages to see three numbers that add up together to meet the same number. Because it seems like we're saying, well, this is part of this, and this is part of that, and this is part of, and you live and breathe this all day, I get it. For us going through this tonight, it's like, I'm right now bouncing between 4 pages and trying to find 4 numbers that add up to the total. And it's just, we'll get there. But that's where our questions are coming from, I think.
I'm hopeful that you'll be supportive of the software package, the accounting software package that we've talked about for 6 years, for 8 years.
Is that gonna make this so that we can run reports against departments,
Reports
against,
will look different.
here's an acquisition
Board of
report,
management,
here's
how
a,
we marry together, but also.
We'll be able to do our own queries.
can I fund that this
This is-
afternoon? I give you
This
my
is
credit
ambitious.
card.
This is ambitious, but I've heard for the last 3 weeks of meetings, your quest, your desire for more information. And I think, in the end, this is your budget book, and you get to decide and shape it. And there was especially in the last meeting, you were looking for more information. Where's the trail, and how, and even you're looking for where's all that other information? Where's our vehicles that we've already purchased? Where's the list of that? And I think you need to decide how this book is going to be presented to you. Because there just seems, and a lot of department heads have come up to me afterwards and said they wanted so much more than I had, but it's hard to anticipate what you want. Technically, this is what you've requested. I know you didn't, because this has been protocol for a dozen years, or longer than any of us have been sitting around here, and maybe even longer than you've been here. But we all need to come up with, what do you need to make the right decision? And maybe that's a subcommittee after we get the software package to develop what the next budget's gonna look like. In the meantime, you probably can subcommittee that to say, what do you want next year? Do you want 4 years of trailing information? We can give you that. But we need to redesign this then, because there's been a lot of frustration from people up here, and certainly from you, that you're not getting that information.
And the word I think that you missed out of that whole thing was understand. We're just trying to understand
And-
what's before us so that we can make intelligent decisions. So I think most of the questions you're just trying to get to explain to me how those numbers come together, show me a trend, tell me your story. But it's the expectation is that when we're done, we can say, okay, we approved the budget based on this information. We wiped out these things because we think they're excessive. I think we're just trying to understand.
I get it.
Sometimes,
So there's nobody in a better position than you six that are going to say, this is what we're going to need to understand. We want the prequel. We don't want just the current. And maybe the forecast, maybe
Yes.
the sequel as well.
hindsight being 2020, it would be great to have this conversation in December to
Right.
say the expectation for
Right.
this year is X, Y, and Z. That would be wonderful,
Yeah.
right?
Agreed, because you didn't get enough information that you would dive in very deep in this budget, especially this year, more so than others. Yet we're giving you the same information, but this year it seemed like the information was coming up short.
It's just, I think, because we're becoming more educated of what things to look for.
Right.
I
Exactly.
think it's
So we need
just,
to-
we
we need
better
to-
understand what we're looking at, so now we're like, in the past, we haven't seen these pieces that build that kind of story.
Right.
So perhaps
So
in
we
the past,
do need to talk about that.
yes, yes,
Agreed.
In a nutshell, the more we learn, the more we don't know.
yes.
Right.
Yes. You don't know what questions to ask until you understand.
The
Okay.
denominator
Anyway.
just keeps getting bigger and bigger of
Well-
what you don't know.
I know.
The sticker shock is also part of it, but, okay. Lisa was asking more important questions to further understand the capital plan.
So the $50,000, the 3 vehicles, right, that are gonna come before us Wednesday night. The Escape, the Swinger,
Skid steer,
whatever.
skid steer, and the
Yeah.
F-350.
And then the so I thought it was a King cab for 50 grand. So which vehicle is it? Is it in Public Works or is it in Flanders Fire Department? There's a chief's vehicle for a 250 super cab for 50 grand.
That's the public, that's, Flanders Fire.
So it's-
Public Works is the 350. Yeah, 350.
So what, the one that we're considering for tomorrow night,
Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's,
that one.
350. And it's the three highlighted items that are on this sheet that I think you were sharing.
I think I got it.
what three are they?
It's my turn for the sheet.
You have two
Skid.
F-250s
350 and S.
also listed in your capital plan.
We won't, though. When we're done, we're gonna have all this clear. Santa's gonna go back and write new reports.
Pardon?
I said during the break, we're gonna get all this cleared up. and
Why do
then
I
we'll-
remember, though, a $50,000 vehicle of a super cab? Am I dreaming that up?
Yes.
No, I don't think I am, though.
Flanders Fire.
Yeah, but the, because I remember, help me out down there. Does anybody remember that?
Well, they're,
What, for the appropriation on Wednesday?
Yeah.
What's included in those two vehicles?
Yeah, I thought it was the super cab, because I remember Joe and
But they're,
Jason.
yep, but it's for Public Works, right? So there's two well, I don't know, there's an F-250 and the Flanders, which is not part of Wednesday. And there's this F-350 part of Public Works, which is part of Wednesday's appropriation.
But that's not listed under the Public Works and the capital improvement plan. It's just, I don't know, I'm just having a little trouble.
Joe may have gone deep.
It's not in this
Joe may
script.
have talked about these
Not
other
in here.
vehicles
Yes,
the night he was
he
up here.
did, he
Yeah.
did.
Just because he's an expert and he's here, and he may have tried to fill in some blanks for you, but I think he confused us
Well,
all.
he actually did a super job on this, right? This vehicle acquisition, and it's supposed to list every vehicle in the department, which is great. And he handed it out. We didn't have time to really look at it.
Did you look to see if it's on this list?
Well, I didn't, no.
Okay.
I guess
But
because
you
there's
know
a
what?
lot of pieces to
One,
this.
okay, so if you look at the capital plan, if you go to the last page,
Mm-hmm.
you'll see down at the bottom in a little note, Public Works vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
So you see, they're all itemized with the description of
Okay,
what.
but you can see how it's a little confusing, right? Because here's a note listing them out, and then I look at other departments and they list them separately. And I didn't even know to look there. So I'm just giving you some feedback as a user of this. Some stuff is treated differently, and I wouldn't have known to look there if you hadn't pointed it out. So can we talk about the 100,000 in LoSiP that I was gonna bring up if Ann hadn't for the police station? So let's just chat about this, friends.
What do you want to chat about, Lisa?
What I want to talk about is the
$100,000
$100,000 that we might use at the police department, which is great. But what I really want to do is not lose sight of the fact that we have this.
We don't
Because
have
maybe we won't need to spend it out of the town's money.
this. Is it true that we don't have this?
Well, it's LoSiP money, and it depends on what.
It's
the
earmarked.
Yeah.
We have to use it for the police station, right?
No. They're gonna give us a chunk of money, and we can spend it on anything in purple.
Okay, but
And
the
generally,
bottom
they give
line
us less
is,
money than we have. I think we have listed 400,000, and we'll get 250,000, so we won't be doing all these projects next year anyway.
the bottom line, though, the point I'm trying to make is I don't want to lose this money. If it's possible, when we do our design work, we find out we can actually have what we want, then I want to see 100,000 come back to the town that we haven't used and use this 100. So how are we going to control that? How are we going to help ourselves remember that, to look for that? Otherwise, it's going to get lost and we're going to just say, oh, we have the money. But if we're mindful that we can set it aside and we really might not need to use it, then we can return it to the taxpayers, and wouldn't that be fun? We
Do
can all
you
feel
want to
really
spend
good.
100,000 on the new police station?
I want to spend the original money we had.
But the 100,000, would you be in
Do I
favor
want
of
to add
spending
it?
that?
Do I want to add it to the
Yeah.
money we currently?
Let-
No, not if I don't, not if I.
Because it's state money, it's not taxpayer money. Well, it's
It
all
is
taxpayer
taxpayer
money, but let's be clear.
Yeah,
you
I know what you mean.
But should that be the first 100,000 we
Yes,
spent
that's what yes.
on the police station?
And then if we don't need the 100,
and
we
then
pull it out.
Don't bond the 100,000 on the back end.
Well, we might have to bond it,
Yeah,
but
I
we
get
could
it.
take the money, we're not going to use that,
Right.
right? Is everyone following me on this? It's not
Yes.
hard, right?
Don't know that-
I'm hearing two different things.
I'm hearing that, how much are we bonding for the whole police?
Two-
Two point-
We have a $5 million appropriation for the purchase and the renovation.
All right.
well said.
So what I want to say is maybe out of that 5 million, if we use 100,000 for LoSiP, then we really only need to bond for,
4.990,
Right.
yeah.
I mean, it doesn't sound like much out of 5 million, but $100,000 is a lot of money to go back to taxpayers.
Yep.
So how can we help ourselves control or manage that?
Here's my thought. We appropriated 5 million, let them have the 5 million. You know, if they can shave a few dollars, great. If not, fine, we gave them 5 million. I would rather take that $100,000 and put it on some other priority that's not getting done in the town.
I'm okay with that, but I didn't know we could move it around.
I mean,
thought LoSiP,
I'm thinking we have hundreds of thousands of dollars of projects probably
Well,
earmarked for this town.
What's listed in purple is $445,000.
Right, and we could probably come up with more stuff, like sidewalks on Pennsylvania Avenue, right, by Gorton Pond?
right, but that's going to be in the millions, isn't it?
You ain't got a plan for
But-
that, so. I don't wanna go
But
I
there.
think, I think.
My point being,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. But you have 445, that's all you could, and only those projects you suspended on. We're not gonna get more than 225 next year, so really that 100,000 won't be available, because we're gonna have some pressing needs on some other issues that are gonna come up. If there was an emergency, we'll have that placeholder that we'll spend the 100,000 on the police station if the front wall caves in or something, you know? I don't know. But I know what you're saying, but if we were fully funded to that number, and we were budgeting correctly to the number we think we're gonna get, and then 100,000's there, I agree with you. But more than likely, we're gonna get funded half of the money that we're budgeting for. And the vestibule at the community center and the resealing of the parking lot to save our asphalt that we paid. And our asphalt, you got that, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
And several other purple items here.
Let me ask you this. In the past, normally when do you find out, when a LoSiP money comes in? When do you normally find out?
When?
Yeah.
When the budget's passed. So
Up at
2
the
years
state-
ago
the
was
state budget.
November, yes.
And once it's passed, you say we know we're getting $300,000. That's just
Yeah.
a figure.
Yeah, use around.
Is there a time constraint, how fast you have, no?
Some towns, I don't want to give you any ideas. Some towns save their money and save their money and save their money,
Yeah.
and then go out and build a building with it.
And that's why every year we have to approve rolling forward LoSiP funds if it's not spent into the next year. But did you say that's different this year? We're not
Correct.
gonna do that anymore? Because
we began, we began putting the LoSiP funds in the CNRE fund for that very reason. So, every year we'll appropriate our new, funding into CNRE, and then, we'll just build the balance up in CNRE, and then when we do a project, we'll get reimbursement. So it'll be like a, equal.
So that would be a good fund balance that we had a running account of, the CNRE account,
Oh, for the LoSiP?
for everything in
Oh, for
CNRE.
everything. Sure.
The LoSiP funded part of CNRE.
So if you're saying, 20,000 is part of that CNR, we're adding 20,000 from leftover LoSiP funds. If there's $1 million in CNRE, we should be able to really see that, 100,000 is LoSiP money,
Understood.
so.
So the long and the short of it is, if I understand this, if we have $450,000 on our LoSiP wish list, and the state gives us $200,000, then who decides which projects go forward?
Generally, the public works director and myself
Okay.
confer, and the departments involved, and has other departments as appropriate.
So if you felt fit that the entire money went to the safety complex, then that would be your call. If you thought that we should really redo a parking lot someplace, that would be your call. And whether or not we leave it on this list as 100,000, or we say we want this to be the top priority, at the end of the day, you guys are gonna decide what you guys are gonna decide.
Well,
Using
We
your
take
best
your advice
intelligent.
under advisement and.
But
and
using
all
your,
that,
I'm
but
not
yeah,
saying
I
you're
mean,
gonna willy-nilly spend it
Yeah,
on
yeah.
casino runs. I'm just saying you're gonna use the needs of the town and
Correct.
decide where you think the
Yes.
best. So for us to,
We triage what's going on and, the scale's not working at the transfer station, gotta go fix that. It's revenue.
okay,